What happens when a French noble with his courtly love and noble manners is stranded in a hostile forest, where bandits and barbarians have unleashed their reign of terror? As if that wasn't enough savagery for him, the name of a mysterious creature named Vourdalak comes back to haunt him. Can he survive the whole feat, or will he sink deeper into the abyss of madness, where love is a curse and reason doesn't exist? Without any further ado, let's dive into the plot of the Vourdalak, a marvelous directorial by Adrien Beau. Before we go into our explanation, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Bandits of the Night, the Barbaric Turks. A stranger heads west to find the house of an old man, who can provide him with a horse for his further travels. Terrified of unknown dangers, he darts through the misty forest, a place that seethes with danger, until he hears the soft hum of a woman. The voice grows louder, and he is completely enthralled by the sight of the beautiful girl named Stenka. He introduces himself as the French Marquis Jacques-Antoine Saturnin d'Urf, looking for the house of Gorcha. As she leads him on the way, he sees the forest is filled with mangled ruins, a remnant of the Turkish invasions in parts of Eastern Europe around the 18th century. The grass is punctured with crosses, marking the land a graveyard. Finally, he reaches the house, his white powdery face filled with fear and modesty. Jegor returns home. He's the elder son of Gorcha and has spent the last few months seeking vengeance on the savage Turks for wreaking destruction upon their village. The family of Gorcha now consists of Jegor, his wife Anja, their son Vlad, and Gorcha's two other children, Peter and Stenka. Even though the Turks have looted away the horses, Jegor promises to fetch one for Jacques. As he prepares to greet his father, he learns that the old man too had set off to fight the Turks with his old musket, lest he be called a coward. Jegor is furious at his family for letting the old man leave, given that his age isn't conducive for fighting anymore. Before going away, Gorcha had warned, "My children, wait for my return for 6 days. After 6 days, if I don't return, recite a prayer in my memory, as it will mean that I perished in battle. But if I should reappear, may God protect you. After the 6 days, I enjoin you to bar the door and deny me entry, whatever I say or do. For by then, I will be none other than a Vortilac, a damned one." The Vortilac. What's in a name? Jegor doesn't really see eye to eye with his other two siblings when it comes to most things. Naturally, he refuses to believe in all this bullshit about the Vortilacs, and orders the family to prepare for Gorcha's return. Now, it's pretty interesting that the movie rarely ever describes what a Vortilac is. Like Jacques, we're left to figure out what's happening, from the point of view of a stranger who has come to this ghost town. As the audience, we are as alien to this countryside horror from the past as a French marquis with noble blood and courtly manners is. The next day, Jacques asks Anja what the word Vortilac even means, to which Anja feigns ignorance. Jacques further learns about Stenka's tragic past. After an illicit romance with a vagabond passerby was discovered by the village, the guy was killed. It's the 18th century after all, and Stenka's marriage prospects have been completely shattered. The family didn't mind Stenka living with them forever. Rather, it was her perpetual state of living in her own fantasy world, doing pagan things and mumbling strange prayers that really pissed off the Christian family. Anja's blood-soaked hands, as she chops raw meat and lets out a prayer, is characteristic of French horror. It isn't overtly terrifying, but you still feel an inexplicable unease at the sight. Anyway, for Jacques, the fling that started in the forest with Stenka grows stronger. Even she refuses to tell him what a Vortilac is, as she apprehends that he will not believe her. Moreover, these are unspeakable evils that are best left unheard of. Now, this is one of my favorite scenes. Jacques tries in vain to seduce Stenka with his courtly manners. He even sits on one knee and bites into an apple, referring to Eve's temptation and the fall of man. But the apple is infested with a worm, and obviously he has to spit it out. Stenka then grabs the apple, takes out the worm, and eats the insect instead of the fruit. She tells him not to judge her kind and they'll return the favor. Anyway, Jacques aggressively tries to pursue her, grabbing her hand and calling her a little peasant. But Stenka remains elusive. Promising to show him the place she secretly bathes in, she tricks the nobleman to almost fall off the edge of a cliff. Jacques manages to survive, but he's almost on the verge of crapping his pants. She throws her basket of blackberries into the abyss, and asks him to imagine how the human skull would crush against the rocks at such depths. Her final mic drop moment comes as she says, "I would have offered you a hand for help, but you have held enough." Gorcha's return, a murderous love. It's also the 6th day since Gorcha left. That evening he returns, but now he looks like a skeletal ghost. The fact that he doesn't have skin or muscles only adds to his horrifying look. He acts like nothing has changed, but the family knows better. Nevertheless, no one dares to speak a word, because it is a feudal village, and he is still the patriarch of the family. He narrates his story of killing the leader of the Turks, Alibek, whom the young and stronger Jegor had failed to defeat. Now nothing makes sense. You're telling me that this lanky, puppetish baldy, who cannot even walk back to his bed, managed to pull off this impossible feat? Wait, it gets weirder. Gorcha never realizes until he's told about the guest's presence at the supper table. This all-consuming hyper-affection toward his family comes at a cost, and the price will be paid with the blood of kin. That night, Jacques has strange nightmares about Gorcha, and he wakes up with a start. Reality seems to be blending with the world of fantasy, as he tries to grasp the events that are unfolding in front of his eyes. The next day, Gorcha is nowhere to be found, but what's worse is that the little boy Vlad is sick. As night falls, Vlad is seen walking out of the house in what seems like a trance. Jacques follows the boy until he comes across Gorcha. I think Jacques knows very well what Gorcha has become and what he's about to do. Nobody told him exactly what a Vortilac is, but now he sees it right in front of his eyes. All his efforts to save the innocent boy go in vain, as Gorcha effortlessly hurls him against a distant tree. In an absolutely spine-chilling scene, the grandpa then bites into Vlad's neck and sucks on his blood. The next morning, Anja is hysterical, holding her dead son in her arm. As the family digs the child's grave, Jacques is fearful of the murderer, who pretends as if he has forgotten the events of last night. During the funeral, both Peter and Zdenka want to drive a stake through Vlad's heart. But why? Gorcha even reproaches the family for Vlad's death, and it is just then that Peter loses his calm and attempts to attack his father. Gorcha now has inhuman strength and agility. These mere mortals with their human strength cannot even scratch him, and he instantly incapacitates Peter. Next, he tells Zdenka that he's the one who orchestrated her lover's shooting. His affection toward his daughter looks oddly incestuous as she retracts from his presence. You'd feel secondhand embarrassment at the way he puts his ghost-like bony fingers on her body. The destruction of a family. The plot deepens. Everyone is now terrified of Gorcha, and would do anything he says. Back in the house, as the candles light up the room and their terrified faces in it, Jacques and Zdenka are made to dance for the Vortilac, whose hollow, perverted eyes watch the duo move around. Suddenly, Peter arrives on the scene, adorned with flowers and lipstick, reclaiming the effeminacy that Gorcha and Jegor used to bully him for. Peter has made up his mind to kill the Vortilac, but before he could succeed in his deed, the skeleton shoots him to death. For our guest, the situation grows worse, as an enraged Jegor blames Jacques for ushering in destruction for the family. After beating the courtly lad to a pulp, Jegor announces that a horse will be arranged the next morning, and Jacques must leave immediately. If Jacques ever even dared to return, Jegor would personally take the trouble to finish him off. As for that night, Jacques would be confined in the cellar. In the middle of the night, however, Jacques is woken by the ghost of little Vlad calling out to his mother. He tries his best to prevent Anja from getting close to the child, who has now met the same fate his grandfather has. But it doesn't take more than an infant's cry for help to thaw a mother's heart. As Anja draws the child into a warm embrace, Vlad coldly bites her, feasting on her blood like a super-adapted predator of the night. The next morning, Zdenka tells Jacques that her brother Peter was her only hope in life, and now he is dead. She plans to jump off the cliff. Saying this, she leaves. Anja has now turned into a Vortilac after last night's fiasco, and the couple provides Jacques with a horse. But he cannot find Zdenka, whom he had planned to take with him. He had told her about the French cooking and the courtly dances, when he was earlier seducing her in the forest. He had even shown her the map of Europe, and she seemed to have been really enthralled by all of this. He returns to the house that evening, and he gets visual flashes of Zdenka singing in the bedroom. While he tries to convince her to leave, she seduces him into having sex, something that Jacques has craved for. As they engage in a passionate encounter, Jacques' trance is suddenly broken with his realization that he had been hallucinating. In reality, he was lying like helpless prey on top of the Vortilac Gorcha, who was drinking his blood. In a quick presence of mind, he grabs a hold of a stake and drives it into the heart of the creature. He even lights the place on fire, watching the hellish monster slowly die a second death. As he flees out of the house, he sees the rest of the family sitting downstairs. All of them have turned into Vortilacs, and he was burning it all down. It was only Zdenka who could escape the fate of turning into her family. As dawn graces the village, he finds her at the edge of the cliff, contemplating jumping into the abyss. But Jacques loves her and convinces her to take a chance at life and go to the French court. He hands over the map of Europe that he had with him, before he himself jumps over the cliff, bringing an end to the Vortilac epidemic that had started in that house. Vortilac explained. Now you must be wondering, what exactly is the Vortilac? To put it simply, this creature is a hybrid between both vampire and werewolf, when either of them bites the other. What happens is that the newly created cells and the original cells would try to destroy each other, and eventually the host dies. If by any chance, these cells fuse and the host manages to survive, what you're witnessing is none other than the dreaded Vortilac. But the challenges of survival don't end here. The sheer power that courses through its veins is sometimes too much to bear, and is another reason why the creature often dies, so it needs an enormous amount of willpower to continue living. In our case, the old man lives out of love for his family, a twisted sense of perverted love, but love nonetheless. Vortilac in today's world. Because the origin and survival of a Vortilac is such a rare occurrence, you'll find only a handful of these species inhabiting the Earth. A Vortilac simply cannot proliferate by biting. All the other factors have to be conducive to its survival. Except for one Emiliano Verga, we don't really know who else is a Vourdalak. They are strangely great at camouflaging themselves. But even this guy is presumably dead from an all-out attack by a group of heavily armed hunters and an angel. Having said that, we can't forget that this is the same individual who was sighted lifting a tank with one arm and killing a group of low-class demons. So, although records suggest that he's dead, several hunters and huntresses claim that they have seen the Italian Vortilac to be alive, and they regret failing to catch him. Basically, the case remains a mystery. Inspiration. The legend of the Vortilac. In Russia, the common word for vampire is Vourdalak or upir. Today, the three stand for the same thing, but back in the 19th century, the distinction was very common. The Russian upir was said to be a former witch, werewolf, or nasty sinner who had been excommunicated from the church. In Ukraine, the upirs were also feared as the vampires who could bring about droughts and epidemics. To Western sources, the Vortilac is simply a vampire from Russian mythology, a reductive notion that was popularized by the fame of certain Russian authors. Generally, it's said that this vampire is an enchanting evil woman who could lure young men into being her prey. Alexei K. Tolstoy's novella, The Family of the Vortilac, tells the story of a Serbian family being destroyed by the Vortilac. The word Vortilac first appeared in the early 19th century and became common due to Alexander Pushkin's 1836 poem that featured the song of the Western Slav cycle. Powers and abilities. Strength. The Vortilac is equipped with the combined strength of both a werewolf and a vampire. What's the best part? They can step out in sunlight without burning and venture into the forest on a full moon night without their bones cracking. Their senses are heightened to locate their prey with precision and ease. Their hunger, deeper than that of both vampires and werewolves, makes them one of the sharpest and most cunning predators out there in the wild. They can climb walls and dart through the forest with superhuman speed and agility. Their remarkable healing powers make them immune to almost all injuries that are fatal to humans. Anything that a vampire or werewolf can do, the hybrid does it way better. It takes only an average Vortilac to completely wipe off a clan of alpha vampires. And that's why the vampire community treats Vortilacs very seriously. If they ever find one of their fellow vampires parenting a Vortilac, the duo will be immediately terminated out of sheer horror. It's pretty much the same case with a pack of werewolves. The rules are strict and you're supposed to abide by them in order to prevent a Vortilac epidemic. Weaknesses. Despite such immense strength, a Vortilac isn't immortal, or the Colt can destroy a Vortilac without much difficulty. Moreover, since it has a genetic fusion of werewolf and vampire cells, the creature is susceptible to injury from mercury and silver. Bullets, arrowheads, and blades made of these can easily cripple a Vortilac. But it would go into a death-like healing coma, where the monster's heartbeat slows down to a degree where it almost completely stops. In fact, the body no longer requires breathing until the creature fully heals and awakens, so they're pretty robust and immune to the common antidotes that can cripple ordinary vampires or werewolves. So ideally, in order to kill a Vortilac, you need to send it into a healing coma and then cut off its head and burn the body. Take extra precaution, because if you falter in any of these steps, the Vortilac will bounce back stronger than before. Marvelous verdict. Dreamy and sensuous, this pastoral horror traces the complete ruin of a family that was already plagued by barbaric invasion. It isn't just the wartime horrors that make the premise so engrossing. Instead, the myth of the Vortilac from old Slavic folklore is refashioned to cater to modern tastes. They could have easily used CGI to animate Gorcha's corpse, but they used a marionette, which makes the setup more uncanny. In the backdrop of a fairy tale-like setting, thoughts of horror and sights of gore are sprinkled perfectly to keep the audience on tiptoes. Just when you think that it's a normal family period drama, you're proven wrong. Much of the film is a slow burn, catching up only after Gorcha returns as the Vortilac. What follows then is a tragedy that supersedes all evil and makes us wonder, what is the cost of love? If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.